Marxism is a conflict theory developed by Karl Marx that focuses on how society is shaped by economic inequalities. Marxists argue that different social institutions, including the family, help maintain capitalism, a system where the rich, known as the bourgeoisie, exploit the working class, known as the proletariat. While the family may seem like a private and loving institution, Marxists believe it plays a crucial role in keeping capitalism alive. Marxists divide society into two main parts: the economic base, which includes businesses, factories, and wealth, and the superstructure, which includes institutions like education, religion, and the family. These institutions exist to support and maintain the economic system. The family, as part of the superstructure, plays a vital role in upholding capitalism by passing down wealth, socializing children into capitalist values, and encouraging consumption. Rather than being a neutral or purely beneficial institution, the family is seen as a mechanism for ensuring that capitalism remains dominant. By examining the ideas of key Marxist thinkers, we can explore how the family functions to serve the interests of the ruling class and maintain capitalism. Firstly, let's take a closer look at Friedrich Engels' ideas about how the family helps keep wealth within the ruling class. Engels argued that the nuclear family developed alongside private property as a way to ensure wealth stayed in the hands of the elite. In earlier communal societies, resources were shared more widely and family structures were more flexible. But as private property became more important, especially with the rise of agriculture and land ownership, men needed to make sure their wealth was passed down to their legitimate children. This is where monogamous marriage became essential. By guaranteeing paternity, it allowed wealth, land, and power to be passed down through generations rather than being spread across society. This idea is supported by historical inheritance laws, which have long helped the wealthy hold onto their fortunes. One example is primogeniture, a system used in feudal Europe where the eldest son inherited everything: land, wealth, and titles, while younger siblings often got little to nothing. This kept estates intact and concentrated power within noble families, stopping wealth from being split up. Meanwhile, in some indigenous societies, wealth was often shared more communally, which helped reduce economic inequalities. Even today, inheritance laws still favor the wealthy in many ways. Some countries charge high taxes on large estates to break up concentrated wealth, while others allow families to pass down fortunes almost tax-free, making it easier for the rich to stay rich. A modern example of Engels' theory can be seen in families like the Duke of Westminster and the Grosvenor family, one of the wealthiest landowning families in the UK. The family's wealth dates back to the 17th century and has been passed down through generations, largely through inheritance. The current Duke of Westminster, Hugh Grosvenor, inherited his title and an estimated £9 billion estate at the age of 25. Making him one of the richest people in the country. Much of this wealth comes from extensive land ownership in central London, including large parts of Mayfair and Belgravia, two of the most expensive areas in the city. This highlights Engels' argument that wealth remains concentrated within elite families. Through legal loopholes and tax advantages, such as the use of trust funds, the Grosvenor family has been able to pass down its fortune while avoiding much of the inheritance tax that ordinary families have to pay. This system allows Britain's wealthiest families to maintain their economic power across generations, reinforcing class divisions. The ability to inherit vast amounts of land and money gives the children of the rich a significant advantage in life, while those from working class backgrounds have to build their wealth from scratch, often struggling to afford property or education without financial support. However, not everyone agrees with Engels' perspective. Some argue that modern Britain offers more opportunities for social mobility than in the past. Unlike in feudal times, when land ownership was the main source of wealth, today people can gain financial success through education, business, and investment. Some wealthy individuals also choose to donate large portions of their money rather than passing it all down to their children. Inheritance tax in the UK is also designed to prevent extreme wealth concentration, as estates worth over £325,000 are taxed at 40%. Additionally, family businesses do not just benefit the owners, they create jobs and contribute to the economy, so not all inherited wealth simply reinforces class inequality. Althusser argued that the family plays a key role in maintaining capitalism by acting as part of what he called the ideological state apparatus. Unlike institutions such as the police or military, which enforce power through force, the ISA works by subtly shaping people's beliefs and values, making them accept the capitalist system as natural and unchangeable. According to Althusser, the family is one of the most important institutions in this process because it socializes children into capitalist ideology, teaching them to accept hierarchy, authority, and economic inequality as normal parts of life. One of the main ways the family does this is by teaching obedience and respect for authority. From an early age, children learn that parents have power over them, that rules must be followed, and that disobedience results in punishment. This process mirrors the way the workplace is structured, where workers are expected to follow orders from their employers without question. By learning to accept authority within the family, children are prepared for their future roles in the capitalist economy, where they will be expected to obey their bosses, work within hierarchies, and not challenge those in power. This helps maintain the ruling class's control over the working class, as it discourages rebellion or resistance against exploitation. Another way the family strengthens capitalism is by teaching children to see competition and inequality as normal. Parents often encourage children to succeed in school, get good qualifications, and work hard to secure a well-paid job. While this seems like positive guidance, Marxists argue that it helps reinforce the idea that success is based on individual effort rather than structural inequality. By presenting capitalism as a fair system where people get what they work for, the family helps justify class divisions and prevents working class children from seeing the system as something that should be challenged. Althusser's idea that the family acts as an ideological state apparatus, teaching children to accept capitalism, has been criticized for being too simplistic and deterministic. Not all families socialize children into capitalist values in the same way. Some encourage critical thinking and resistance to authority rather than blind obedience. His theory also ignores how children actively interpret and challenge what they are taught, rather than passively absorbing ruling class ideology. Another issue is that not all families reinforce capitalist values. In some cultures and alternative family structures, values like equality, cooperation, and mutual aid are emphasized instead. Althusser also overlooks the emotional support and stability that families provide, which cannot just be reduced to serving capitalism. Additionally, family life has changed over time, with shifts towards gender equality, diverse parenting styles, and greater social awareness, showing that the family is not a fixed tool of capitalist ideology. Another way the family supports capitalism is by acting as a key consumer unit. Zaretsky argued that families are central to consumer culture because they are constantly encouraged to spend money. From everyday necessities like food and household items to luxury goods and entertainment, families play a crucial role in driving demand in the capitalist economy. A key way businesses take advantage of this is through advertising targeted at children and parents. Many companies rely on what is known as pester power, where children repeatedly nag their parents to buy the latest toys, gadgets, or designer clothing. This is particularly effective during key shopping periods like Christmas, when parents feel social and emotional pressure to buy expensive gifts to show love and care. A clear example of this is the marketing of games consoles and smartphones, where brands like Sony, Microsoft, and Apple release new models just before the holiday season, creating a sense of urgency and exclusivity. Parents, not wanting their children to feel left out, often spend large sums of money on these products, reinforcing the cycle of consumerism. Beyond gifts, capitalism also encourages seasonal and event-based spending. In the UK, days like Black Friday and Boxing Day sales fuel excessive consumption, with families pressured into buying items they may not need simply because of discounts. Many parents take on credit card debt or loans to afford high-cost items, further tying them into the capitalist system. Additionally, children's trends in clothing and entertainment, such as branded school uniforms, Disney merchandise, and fast fashion, push parents to continuously spend on new products, as children quickly outgrow or lose interest in old ones. Even experiences such as family holidays and education have become highly commercialized, with families encouraged to spend thousands on trips abroad or private tutoring to give their children a competitive advantage. Zaretsky's ideas are criticized because it assumes all families passively accept consumer culture and constantly spend beyond their means. In reality, many families budget carefully, resist advertising pressures, and teach their children financial responsibility. Some parents actively reject excessive spending by encouraging second-hand shopping, minimalism, or prioritizing experiences over material goods. Another issue is that not all spending benefits capitalism in the way Marxists suggest. Families also invest in education, healthcare, and savings, which can improve social mobility rather than just fueling consumer culture. Additionally, in times of economic hardship, such as during the 2008 financial crisis or the current cost of living crisis in the UK, many families cut back on non-essential spending, showing that consumption is not always an automatic or inevitable function of family life. Finally, some argue that consumer culture is not entirely forced onto families, but is also shaped by individual choices and changing social values. For example, ethical consumerism, such as buying from sustainable brands or supporting local businesses, shows that not all family spending reinforces capitalism in the way Zaretsky describes. Zaretsky also argues that the family plays a psychological role in supporting capitalism by acting as a cushion against the pressures of working life. The family provides emotional support that helps workers cope with the alienation and exploitation they experience in capitalism. This idea is similar to Talcott Parsons' warm bath theory, which suggests that family life soothes the pressures of the outside world. However, while Parsons saw this as positive, Zaretsky critiqued it as a way of maintaining capitalist control. By offering love and security, the family makes harsh working conditions seem more bearable, reducing the likelihood that workers will challenge the system. This function of the family helps to stabilize capitalism, as it prevents workers from recognizing the extent of their oppression. If workers find emotional comfort at home, they are less likely to demand better wages or improved conditions. For example, after a stressful day at work, a supportive family environment provides reassurance and care, allowing workers to recharge before returning to work, continuing the cycle of exploitation. A modern example can be seen in the COVID-19 pandemic, which placed extreme financial and emotional stress on many workers. Job losses and increased workloads led to widespread burnout, yet media narratives emphasized family time, resilience, and togetherness rather than economic inequality. People were encouraged to see family as a source of comfort, shifting attention away from structural inequalities, such as the struggles faced by low-paid and precarious workers. Zaretsky would argue that this shows how the family deflects attention away from systemic problems, ensuring capitalism remains unchallenged. Marxist feminists extend the argument by highlighting how women's roles in the family benefit capitalism. Sociologists such as Margaret Benston and Fran Ansley argue that women perform unpaid domestic labor, such as cooking, cleaning, and childcare, which supports capitalism without any financial reward. Women also act as a reserve workforce, meaning they are brought into employment when needed and pushed back into the home when they are no longer required. A historical example of this occurred during World War II, when women entered the workforce to replace men who had gone to fight. Once the war ended, many women were expected to return to domestic roles. This pattern continues today, with women frequently taking on part-time or precarious jobs in retail and healthcare, making them more vulnerable to job losses during economic crises. The COVID-19 pandemic further exposed this issue, as women disproportionately lost jobs and took on increased caregiving responsibilities at home. These patterns illustrate how capitalism relies on women's labor, both inside and outside the home, while maintaining gender inequality. The final way that women are used to support capitalism is through reproduction. Women support capitalism through reproduction by giving birth to and raising the next generation of workers, ensuring a continuous labor supply for the economy. Marxist feminists argue that women also perform unpaid domestic labor, such as childcare and housework, which sustains the workforce by allowing men to work longer hours without additional responsibilities. Additionally, governments often promote pronatalist policies, for example, childcare incentives or maternity benefits to encourage higher birth rates, ensuring that capitalism has a steady supply of future workers and consumers. Marxism has been criticized for focusing too much on the traditional nuclear family, ignoring the diversity of modern families such as same-sex couples, single-parent households, and extended families. These families experience challenges that are not always linked to capitalism. For example, single-parent families often face economic struggles due to social policies and gender norms rather than just class oppression. Same-sex families challenge traditional gender roles, which Marxists do not fully address. Another criticism is that Marxism overlooks the emotional benefits of family life. While it focuses on how families support capitalism, it ignores the love, security, and sense of belonging they provide. During crises like the COVID-19 pandemic, families were vital in offering emotional and practical support, showing that their role goes beyond economic functions. Marxism is also seen as too deterministic, assuming that all families pass down capitalist values. In reality, Some challenge capitalist norms, raising children with critical awareness of inequality. Some parents promote alternative lifestyles like sustainability or communal living, rejecting consumer culture. Finally, Marxism prioritizes class oppression over other inequalities, such as gender, race, and sexuality. While it acknowledges women's exploitation, it underplays the role of patriarchy in shaping family structures and overlooks racial inequalities that influence family life.